Isn't
Right.
technology
Hopefully
marvelous?
we're back, and hopefully we are not frozen anymore. In one of the a couple of innovations we're trying out this week, and I'd love to know what people think. We have the names on the screen of the people I'm being joined with, and also we've cut just to four people. We are going to try and actually keep it to the hour I've always thought it probably should be. So welcome to One World, One Blood Bowl, episode 4. We are back again on a Sunday evening, and then going out obviously on the YouTubes and on the podcast on Spotify. So do feel free to check those out, drop likes, subscribes, all those sorts of good things. I'm joined this evening by, in no particular order, by Elyod, by Crucifer, and by FullMetal. So representatives there of all sorts again, all different corners of Blood Bowl. And within my Discord, always available below the stream, there is a One World, One Blood Bowl Discord channel where I would love to hear suggestions as to who you think I should be inviting on, what corners of Blood Bowl we're not reaching yet, who else we should have on to talk to. So this evening, three incredible names. We could easily fill an hour with any of them. We also have a bit of a surprise for you later. We have someone popping up from the Twitch channel. So do feel free to drop any questions, any ideas, anything you want to talk about in there. And if I'm missing it, we have someone specifically ready to sort of try and grab that idea and bring it up to us. So this evening we have with me, as I said, three huge names. I'm sure none of them are unknown to all of you, but you may not know who every one of us perhaps is. Um, I need no introduction. I'm the man with the belief in his own voice. But above me on my screen we have Elyod, a huge streamer in the Blood Bowl 2 community. I believe a recent convert over to Fumble, so I want to talk to him obviously about that. Possibly the man who has qualified the most different races for the Chalice. I think that may be true. Um, a try-harder, someone that likes to get into Chalice with all sorts of different teams. Perhaps we also need to talk about how successful Chalice has been. And that brings me naturally to the next person we're going to talk to, which is, of course, Crucifer. If you don't know him, then you perhaps should. I would describe him as the GOAT, the greatest of all time when it comes to Blood Bowl 2 and the Chalice. Particularly, so in CCL qualifying, known for his play with Chorfs, but also I believe he plays other races. The rumours that I only play Dwarfs are also untrue. And definitely the most Chalice wins. So an interesting fact there I want to ask him about is when I called him the GOAT, when asking him to come on, he said, "What does that mean?" So I refused to hear what he said afterwards. So I want to hear how he feels about that label. And of course, I'm thrilled to welcome on FullMetal, a man I confess I'd not met before this evening. So hi.
Hi.
Um,
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
but part of my figurative universe, a huge figure within the shadowy world to me of REBBL. Um, so let's start there. What REBBL is a huge league and ecosystem of Blood Bowl, I believe, isn't it? What's that
Um,
about, and who are you to it?
well, I'm essentially the commissioner. I'm the head of the admin team. But I only started. Rebel is the Reddit Eternal Blood Bowl League. We're on our 18th season that we're actually just starting on Wednesday. So if I look tired, it's because I've been staring at spreadsheets all day.
Okay.
Because we've just had 500-ish coaches that I've had to assign into divisions, with the help of some very, very lovely admins. And yeah, we like to think it's more than just one league because we kind of have branched out. We've got Clan League, which I know you are a part of, and you are part of that, and we've also got a lot of side leagues as well. But it's as much a community Discord as well as it is a league. I know there's a lot of people in the Discord who maybe have kind of burnt out on Blood Bowl, but still want to hang around because they like chatting to the people that they've met along the way. And certainly we do kind of encourage that. We have a lot of like side stuff for them. Like there's a lot of guys who play like Civilization who have their own Discord channel in there and stuff as well. It's not just Blood Bowl, but it is
So
founded from a love of Blood Bowl.
a Blood Bowl based community.
Yes.
Do you have to be able to use Reddit?
We schedule on Reddit.
Okay.
You don't have to be particularly good at it. You don't have to know how the upvotes and downvotes and stuff goes. But in terms of a tool that a lot of people, I know a lot of people don't use Reddit, but a lot of people do. I mean, I found it because I was browsing Reddit in work at the time. That's how I actually found out about Rebel. When I joined back in the first season, I only joined as a player. And it's just very, very helpful the way Reddit threads work. It's very, very easy for us to monitor scheduling.
Okay.
And a lot of people say, well, why don't you use Discord? Because Discord's such a powerful tool. And unfortunately, there are ways to edit other people's Discord messages if you look up the source of code. It's very technical, and I don't know how to do it. But I know other people can make you say all sorts of things in your past messages, so it's not reliable. Whereas Reddit, it's once it's posted, it's there. We have access to it, and it just makes it very, very easy to track people's scheduling.
Do you personally still play in Rebel? Are you a player as well as an
Absolutely.
admin?
I have gone to the dark side. I'm on my 3rd season as Chorfs, and I have quite a filthy team. No offense, Crucifer, no offense. But yeah, I'm currently playing in our well, it's the Oceanic division, the Big O, because it works around my time zones for the kids at school, even though I'm from the UK. And yeah, I've just hit Division 2 there, so there's some quite scary looking teams ahead of me.
Yeah, I mean, in particularly the Blood Bowl 2 client, the 2016 rules, or CRP, just before 2016, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, things do build very scary with CPOM in leagues, don't they? Is Rebel
Yeah.
pretty bash dominated, or?
Well, we've just had our Super Bowl last night, and the Super Bowl was an elf off. It was Wood Elves versus Dark Elves. So I
Okay.
won't spoil it for anyone, but if you want to go back and watch that, it was Misspelled Tree, who I know is known to the CCL crowd as well.
Yeah.
Taking on Soul of Dragonsfire, who I don't think plays much in the way of CCL. So
And someone I hope Tree will, I desperately hope will be on this this podcast at some point. I'd love to have a chat with her. So sell me Rebel. I mean, I don't play in Rebel. Should I?
if you like scheduled leagues, we are kind of big. We have a 64 coach playoff in the off season, so we have, I think it's 100 we have 2 cups. We have the playoffs and the Challenger Cups in our off season. So there's 64 coaches in each of them. It's like 189 games over 6 weeks, and every match is live streamed. So it's very much about the capturing that whole NFL style excitement of building up for the league and then showing the off season and the playoffs. But it's like I say, it's also, I like to think it's a very friendly, welcoming community. And yeah,
And
if you like Blood Bowl and want to experience the league, we're here.
there is some governing of behaviour, isn't there? People basically aren't allowed to be dicks. I think that's a key phrase within the
Don't
sport.
be a dick is literally one of our most core tenets. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we're all here to have fun, and why be horrible to someone? You don't need to. It's about the enjoyment of the game. We've got a lot of coaches who don't ever make playoffs, who just play because they like playing Blood Bowl in that kind of a community. They'll be in the lower tiers and they'll just pot around doing their own thing, and they love it too. So why ruin it for anyone by being a dick?
I'm seeing a look of great confusion on Crucifer's
Yeah,
face, but we'll have to
no,
explain that to him in a minute. Crucifer,
I'm just wondering if yeah, I have a question for Full Metal, and it's regarding the schedule league. Like a lot was spoken about scheduling, like in the last 5 minutes, and I don't know if I'm just alone on that, and or maybe there are some other people uh, on the same page with me. And the biggest one of the biggest problems for me with scheduled leagues is that I don't personally like scheduling matches. It's same in CCL playoffs or leagues I know, and did you ever consider other scheduling rules or something like that? For me, for example, I don't have obviously a great solution to that. It's just, as I say, a little bit uncomfortable for me. What if there is some other way to schedule matches? For example, if we have a set day, let's say Wednesday evening, and if somebody doesn't agree to play on that day, he has to reschedule. And like if another party says that, well, Wednesday evening is great for me, and we'll have to play on that exactly day. Because for me, for example, it would be more comfortable if I knew that every Wednesday I'm playing my match,
yeah.
and but that would make my life more organized,
So
and I will
option
be
A, a
more
committed
happy.
day, and then option
Yeah,
B, scheduling if option A doesn't work.
Yeah, I understand obviously that's why I'm assuming CCL appeals so much. It's because when you've got the time, you sit there and you pick up and play the game. We have played around with like unscheduled ladders formats within the Rebel community available to Rebel members. The only problem we had is it was during COVID a lot of the time, and it turned out that whoever had the most free time ended up just building up ridiculous teams. And because it was a smaller community than the CCL the ladder, Obviously, there was a few coaches who just played a lot and ended up dominating. But the one thing we have, I think, that may help in that regard is that we are one of the few leagues that actually has an oceanic arm. We're actually split up into the REBBL is split up into 3 different conferences, which is the REL, which is the American conference. So if you're available during American evening time or weekend, peak time for weekends in America, you would play in the REL conference. We have the G-Man, which is the European conference, and then we do have the Big O, which is much more for coaches out Japan, China, Russia, Australia, New Zealand, that region. So we do have, in that term, we have somewhere where that people who have that kind of availability can play.
I do
no
wonder.
Matter what your availability
in my beatific future, there's a world where the Southern Waste League, the biggest, oldest league on Fumble, which is the Australian and Oceanic-based league there, which is I think 50 or 60 old seasons old. But their seasons are obviously a little shorter than REBBL seasons. And sort of the REBBL Big O. I'm wondering how much crossover there is between those people.
I would love for there to be more.
Yeah.
You know what? The one thing I will say about the Aussies, they are amazing. Every one of them I've met, there's a lot of incredible players over there. We've got a coach called Sandune, who I believe may be known to you as a Fumble coach.
Mm-hmm.
I know you may remember him at the World Cup and things. He was one of our earliest Super Bowl champions.
Yes, I played alongside him at the Cross-Platform Cup. Now, I do really want to move on, and I have to talk to Elyod and Crucifer, but
Absolutely.
there is a big elephant just sat just behind your left shoulder, Metal, and I do have to ask about it, of course. Look, there's been a lot of talk about one particular disgruntled ex-admin, who I don't necessarily want to give too much oxygen to myself, but a revelation of his about a security breach, possibly, within both the Cyanide and possibly the REBBL setup. Can you? I just want to ask, what should I, as a Blood Bowl 2 coach, know about that, and what should I do about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that. To be honest, I'm glad it came out because we discovered basically, how the Cyanide. If you've spoken to anyone from Goblin Spy or any of the other Mordrek, things like that, they all have access to the Cyanide API for accessing information from the client for their own uses. So when we were building our REBBL.net website, where a lot of our match data and our league data is held, we found that, among other things, every replay file sends your IP address, records your IP address. So we knew that Cyanide were doing that, but they're not only doing that, but they're making it available in plain text. It's not just to us. It's not something that only REBBL would know. Anyone who has accessed the API will have access to every coach's IP address for every replay that's ever been done. It's in the text files.
Right.
In terms of the passwords, we are aware that Cyanide's data. I don't understand the tech side. I'm not the tech guy. Right? I've had it explained to me in as simple as straightforward a format as possible, but it's something to do with the way they communicate the passwords back and forth to the server. It can be looked up. It's not something we've done. It's not something we would do, but it can be looked up with the tools that we would use to access the API. You can sniff out that data. I don't know exactly how it works, but I've had it explained to me that it is not as secure as it should be. Now, obviously, as soon as we discovered these problems, like I said to the guys, you need to go and tell Cyanide about this. This is clearly not okay. And their response was, "All right, thanks. We'll look at it." And we haven't heard anything since. But there's nothing more we can do. It's not our problem. It's Cyanide's problem. And now we're not doing anything with that data. And I'm sure that the guy who, the Board Record and Goblin Spy and all those other sites, Diced or not, are not doing anything with your IP addresses, because why would they? But obviously, if it is a concern, the number one thing you can do is use an individual password.
Yeah, so you use a password for your Blood Bowl account that is different to what you use for, say, your internet banking and your porn accounts.
Especially the porn accounts.
Okay. Yeah,
Exactly.
I wouldn't want that known to the world.
How long ago was it that you told Cyanide, out of interest?
Years. We've had REBBL.net up for 4 years at this point. We've made them aware of it. We've actually been speaking to them since it came out. They seem to be a little more interested now that it's kind of hit their Discord server. So I've actually instructed one of my guys to speak to them and see if there's anything we can do to make it quite clear what we found and what obviously people are concerned about. But with the focus being on Blood Bowl 3, I mean, we're seeing bugs in the game that aren't necessarily still being fixed that have been there for years. So my hope isn't great.
Okay, so I mean, what I'm taking away from this is that someone with a bit of an axe to grind decided to expose an issue where you guys had actually tried to do the right thing. So perhaps if there's any blowback on you, that doesn't seem entirely fair to me.
I appreciate you saying that. I mean, like I said, it's the equivalent. You know, you've got an ex-girlfriend and she's not happy and decides to throw anything at the wall and see what sticks.
All my ex-girlfriends are happy, I promise.
I'm sure they are.
Those that lived.
But you're aware of that situation with other people, other less wonderful people. It feels like it was just an attempt to draw any kind of negative light to us, and.
Well, I mean, look, there's going to be some shade thrown later, I promise you. But for now, I just wanted to deal with it, and I don't, as you said, I don't want to give it too much oxygen. But I think it's fair that we do, ask about.
No, absolutely, and I fully understand the community being concerned and upset about it. But I think the concern for me is the attempt to say that it was us doing something untoward. It was never.
Okay.
Anyone who's accessed their API and their data will be aware of the kind of information they're passing backwards and forwards, and the way that, like I said, they're recording IP addresses. They're recording, and it's right there in plain text in a replay file if you know where to look.
Right. Okay. Well, look. I mean, thank you for those answers. I mean, that's out there. It's more than I understand. Elyod, you're a smarter fella than I. Is this something to worry about?
Oh, I mean, I have not the faintest idea about internet security or anything like this, other than
Magic. You and me both.
Unique passwords, etc., randomly generated, this kind of thing. I mean, it's pretty it's pretty bad, isn't it? Like, especially as Metal says, with Blood Bowl 3 coming out, who knows, what kind of practices they'll be using for that, as continuing from Blood Bowl 2. So. It seems like a pretty scary thing. When I found out about it, I posted a message saying, who knows if to my Discord people saying, who knows if this is true, but if it is, it's pretty bad, right? Make sure you're using a unique password and everything.
So welcome to One World, One Blood Bowl, Elyod.
Oh, thank you.
So for those that don't know, as I said earlier, one of the biggest Blood Bowl 2 streamers around, a habitual Chalice qualifier, recent fumble convert, I believe.
Yeah, indeed.
So how's your Blood Bowl life at the moment? What are you up to? How are you loving your Blood Bowl?
Pretty much same as always, honestly. I know people maybe tend to go through peaks and troughs with the Blood Bowl. There was one famous Blood Bowl coach who said you can never really be a successful Blood Bowl coach until you've had a quit for a while and come back. But yeah, I've been playing for about 6 years in total, about 3 years sort of semi-seriously playing in CCL, and pretty much been enjoying it all the time, and continue to do so. Playing plenty of ladder right now, playing plenty of CCL of ranked ladder. Went out of last season's cup, hopefully going to get back into next season's cup, and dropped a load of leagues actually. So on the continuing the REBBL theme just briefly. Was in REBBL I think 3 or 4 seasons myself. Really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Played some high elves.
And it was a magnificent high elf team to watch. Every time you made playoffs, the games were always thoroughly entertaining. So
yeah, thanks. It was fun. They were fun to play in. Pretty stressful sometimes, for sure. But yeah, cheers. Pretty cool team indeed. Had some really nice catchers on there, and some fun games definitely. But a bit like Crucifer says, I can't really stand the scheduling too much. So I was in a few different leagues. I really overdid it with the leagues. I was in like 3 or 4 different ones, which is too much for me. So I ended up sort of burning out of them all and quitting all the leagues and just focusing on the CCL and a bit of fumble, as you say.
And is that some of the scheduling issue again, or is it just that different way of playing Blood Bowl?
Mostly the scheduling thing. I really do like the CCL format. It's not that I dislike the league formats. Of course, different leagues have different formats anyway. But I really do like the CCL format. And scheduling, especially with streaming. I tend to stream to a fairly strict schedule. So, and which also doesn't necessarily align too well with people's ability to schedule games, because I stream during the day. And obviously, if people work or this kind of things, they tend to be available in the evenings, which is absolutely understandable. And so I play the games in the evenings. But then if I've been playing Blood Bowl all day on stream, I don't really want to play in the evenings, this kind of thing. So mostly a scheduling thing. Not insurmountable, but just slightly annoying.
Do you tabletop at all?
I don't know. I don't know where they've gone. I got an undead team a couple of years ago, just before the pandemic started. So planning to start at some point. I'm being very ultra paranoid with the whole COVID thing, and staying wrapped up indoors for now. But yeah, hopefully next year maybe try and get something sorted. Would love to have a go.
I mean, the reason I ask is, I mean, I've been on your stream a lot, mainly because I do
Yeah.
love the marbles.
Oh, of course.
And the stream will obviously be linked in the podcast description, the YouTube description, and even
thank
the
you.
VOD highlights description. But if you can't find Elyod's stream, then where have you been on Twitch? He's all over the place. So I've been on your stream a lot, and I love going there. But it strikes me you're a little like myself, bit of a polymath at Blood Bowl. You know, you're doing some fumble. You seem to be very big about streaming and having a schedule with the streaming and entertaining while you stream, and YouTubing and sort of building that repertoire. But is the dream Chalice, or is the dream domination of the Twitch scene, or is the dream being good at Blood Bowl and moving across all the different formats? What is Elyod's Blood Bowl dream?
Yeah. Fair. I don't know. Maybe like polymath kind of suggests I'm good at lots of different things. Maybe I definitely reject that label. Solid mediocrity. Only. But yeah, I don't know. Good question. Like I streamed about 18 months. No, about almost 2 years actually. 2 years now. I've been streaming. Pretty like full time, part time kind of thing. And before that, I played for like 18 months, maybe 2 years or so, off stream. And at that point, I was very much interested in trying to win as many games as I could, and win Chalice was the primary objective. Winning the tournaments for me is the big thing. Win rates were always a popular one, right? In ladder, this kind of thing. But for me, that's not so interesting because I don't know how you do on average against an average cross section of coaches or whatever. For me, is just less, like I say, less interesting, I think, than winning a tournament, this kind of thing. So yeah, winning Chalice, winning that's the CCL Cup at the end of the ranked ladder is definitely target number one. But since I've been streaming, it's sort of been more of a priority given over to streaming the games and trying to have fun with people, and of course make a bit of money with it as well. So a bit of a, like you say, a bit of mixed priorities, I guess now.
Did I hear right that you've qualified with all 24 races?
Yes, that's correct indeed. Very very sad, no life at all.
I would say the exact opposite. That's not sad. Yeah. That's incredibly impressive.
I mean, the tabletop crowd have a badge that's available if you've been to a real life tournament and coached every race. So you are not alone in your madness.
Fantastic.
But which was the hardest?
The hardest to qualify.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have thought the stunties, there's perhaps a narrower field. So which one did you really think was the tough one to just get into that spot?
Yeah, exactly. So the stunties, of course, like you say, worse teams but less competition. So yeah, it works out about the same. Ogres were I think. Let me think. So vampires were the last one I did. Ogres, I pretty much like all teams equally. Apart from ogres, I really hate ogres. Completely worthless waste. I know there's some really good coaches who play ogres really well, but I don't understand how that's possible at all. Just utter garbage, I think.
I should get you on with Strider.
Yeah, that's just who I was thinking of. Yeah, I was. I struggled with ogres, I guess, but then again, the competition isn't great. The one season I actually failed to qualify, and it was with a team I'd already qualified with. But the one season since I first qualified, the one season I missed was with Necromantic. I think I always struggle more with Necromantic than I feel like I should do compared to how strong the race is, which I think is decently strong. And yeah, I do have some.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm exactly the same. They're one of the races that I just can't seem to click with. I've waited too long, and you've been sat very patiently. I wonder if you've been thinking about tea and fruit. To some, the Ivan Drago of CCL and of Blood Bowl 2. To others, a quietly spoken, lovely young man who talks about fruit and herbal tea. Crucifer, the greatest of all time on Blood Bowl 2 in the CCL and the Chalice. I don't think anyone is going to say no when I say that to you. Welcome to One World, One Blood Bowl.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
How does it feel when I call you the greatest of all time?
It's slightly confusing, a little bit unexpected, to be honest. Always suffering from pretender syndrome, if you have that same name in English team.
Yeah.
I have it everywhere, be it Blood Bowl or the new work I have. I always feel like I'm not in the right place. Like I shouldn't be here, and like they pay me money for something that I don't deserve, and it's a little bit confusing. Probably low self-esteem doesn't help.
Wow. Not not the answer I expected. Well, we
If it
talked.
makes you feel any better, there's a fantastic story where a guy was at a White House dinner, and he was sat there chatting at the back, and he said, "I don't feel like I belong here." And the guy who he was talking to was saying exactly the same thing. And he's like, "Oh, what's your name?" Got chatting to him and stuff, and it turned out the guy who didn't think he belonged at the White House dinner was Neil Armstrong. So if he can have pretender syndrome, I think
Yeah.
you're allowed to.
Well, I have a perfect explanation. Like, I mean, uh, 6 times, yes, it's obviously great and feels good. But I have an explanation. For example, it might be that I'm just one of few people who play a lot, one of the few people who pick the right race for the CCL. I think. Like late in the last couple of years, I realized that probably, in my opinion, definitely Chorps are the best CCL format. Like I thought for a season that Normal is better, tried it out. Well, found out it's not. And well,
I believe we met that season.
yeah, exactly. And I not exactly that much, but overall, I
Yeah.
just understood that Chorfs are overall better. They are worse against Northern and Chaos, for example, but overall, they have a better matchup against most teams. And I was just happy to fall in love with the team that ends up being the best one.
Okay, so
And
if I'm bringing a tennis analogy in, do you think maybe
mhm,
you've just got the best serve?
probably it's part of the reason. Obviously, it's not like I mean, winning 6 times just on skill alone in CCO. I don't think it's possible. You have to be lucky. You have to pick the best team, and all that combined may lead you to having 6 wins. Probably,
But it's not going to happen by accident, is it?
exactly.
So
I
some of that
definitely.
has to be Crucifer, doesn't it?
Well, that that may sound a little bit wrong, but uh, I obviously play a lot of against a lot of coaches and probably against possibly everyone that's good or way above average. And I definitely felt in some games that I have an upper hand. Not in all of them, obviously, but sometimes there's a feeling like that you have some kind of advantage. You may not explain it, but you have it, and like you have a mindset for that exact match that if you play it properly without major fuck ups and all, you'll probably win. Not obviously always, as I said. Just sometimes you have that feeling, and well, if I may say also, there's one thing that caught my attention. It's saying that trying to win the chalice and then switching to streaming, uh, for me, that wasn't a separate thing. Um, my personal observation, streaming while playing helped me a lot to improve, helped me a lot to stay focused. And there are times when I'm playing on stream, playing off stream, and it's obviously not a huge sample size, right? But I felt like I have better results while streaming. Helped me to focus a lot.
To take that slightly sideways, I mean, I've been on Blood Bowl 2 a lot less time than some other people have. But from when I arrived, you were already, a fantastically well-known coach, streamer, winning lots of chalices. But I think in the last 18 months, I've seen you leap forward as a coach. And I wondered if some of that was pushing out into other formats, like things like the Blitz Pit, um, and perhaps trying things like Pro Elves a bit more, and just learning, pushing out your boundaries. Do you think it was that, or do you think it's just natural refinement over time? What's helped that move?
Didn't think about it, but the first thing that comes to mind is that exactly playing different teams helps a lot. Like you may understand one of 24 teams the best, like you know it better than anyone else. But if you don't know how your opponents play, how they think while playing elves against you, you'll have that little disadvantage. And without understanding what your opponent will do next turn, how he will respond to your turn, uh, it's something that will obviously keep you handicapped. And until you try what your opponents do, like you will not, you don't probably don't need to play all the teams. But understanding the game from perspective of a fast team, agile team, while you play a bash team, it's necessary thing. You just won't be able to
But then
be
I
good.
offer you as my example Elyod, who understands the CCL format with all 24 races. He's proven that. He's qualified with all of them. Elyod, what do we need to drag out of Crucifer and throw up into that brain of yours to get you that chalice?
Oof, being better at Blood Bowl, I suggest. Just generally, I don't know. I think it's kind of easy to look for obviously not just in my case, but in everyone's case, really, it's easy to look for sort of like one quick trick or something, like one bit of like missing ingredient or something. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of the time, at the end of the day, for anybody to improve at Blood Bowl, then there were just lots of basic things that you can probably be doing better. Lots of things you're missing. Lots of mistakes. I guess it's easy to make mistakes in Blood Bowl, and they always have a big impact.
Do you think perhaps going into that one race and really grinding? I mean, Rick Reckless got his chalice through Chorfs. Should we all just be thinking, I'm going to do Chorfs this season, I want to win a chalice? Is Crucifer right? Is it not him at all?
Oh, absolutely
it's
not.
It's not Crucifer. That.
Yeah, absolutely not right.
I think a lot of people had that line of thinking along the last 20 seasons or so. Like, I think I'll pick the Chorfs and then win the CCL. I believe, I honestly believe that a lot of people thought along those lines, and probably most of them didn't succeed. But if we look at results, I think Chorfs are top one represented in winnings. So I think Elyod's, well, if I may be allowed to call that an issue, is to playing 24 teams. If we take Elyod and give him 24 qualifications, and he plays 24 of them with each different team, and then we give same Elyod, same person, if we clone him, and give him 24 qualifications at Chorfs, trust me, I think at least a couple of times he would have won it.
Okay, there you are, Elyod. I've found you your answer.
24 qualification with the Chorfs, then let's go.
Presumably in the same season.
Okay, need to make some more accounts, I guess.
Now, look, I knew that I had you three on tonight, and it's very hard to marry the world of REBBL and a senior admin there with the CCL Chalice and with Fumble, which I know that perhaps Crucifer and Metal maybe have less experience of than me and Elyod maybe do. But I did come up with one question, which I think is going to be interesting, particularly with REBBL and with the Blitz Pit experiences of Crucifer. And with Elyod, I know sometimes finding those last few seconds a little tricky. What's the right length for a game of Blood Bowl?
There are different, like, you play, or you take chess, right? I guess I don't know anything about chess, but I do know there are lots of different options for how long a game you want to play, right? I think, I guess, maybe at certain, like, the biggest tournaments, like official standard lengths or something, I guess. But for me, the answer would be whatever length you fancy playing. Like, loads of different lengths.
REBBL's 4 minutes, Chalice 3 minutes,
Having
CCL
cast,
2 minutes.
Having cast an awful lot of games in my time in REBBL, it's not 3 hours. I'll tell you that for a fact.
I mean, it is a criticism of REBBL. Gone that long, a lot of people do tell me that REBBL can be slow. Do you think that's fair criticism, Metal?
Well, I play my game every week in about an hour. So is that slow? You've got 4-minute turns. Yeah, we get a lot of people who bag on us for 4-minute turns. But how often, like Elyod, you played in REBBL. How often did a game run 4-minute turns every turn?
Oh, I mean, it's an interesting question, right? Because I mean, the timer's not going to reach 0 every single turn, obviously, in a game like is it? But with Blood Bowl 2, you have these 15-second chunks and whatnot, right? So it's difficult to say really how long a turn is running. In terms of the 4 minutes, I'm not too unhappy playing 4 minutes at all. I think maybe for watching, and you were mentioning casting like 3-hour games and stuff, maybe there's where the longer turn.
They are the outside, if that helps.
Yeah.
Crucifer, Elyod's being nice. Are these people crazy? Surely Blood Bowl should be a minute and done, shouldn't it? And half of that time can be checking your phone.
I think playing in a league, not playoff, and playing CCL should be 1 minute, but playoffs should have 2. Absolutely, I'm up for 2 for important matches, not less than 2. I usually in playoffs and other important games want to have 2 minutes, not more. I think more is over the top, but 2 is exactly what I need.
Okay, and do you think the Blood Bowl suffers at that speed? Does it reduce the quality of what we're doing?
I think 1 minute turns to reduce the quality of game, but 2 minutes is perfect. My issue with 1 minute, with 2 minutes in regular season of CCL, for example, is that I usually don't need that much time. As people in chat in Twitch mentioned, it's grinding usually. Like when you play hundreds of games a season, you don't want those games to last an hour and a half. You would prefer them to be 1 hour. Well, if your game is 1 hour, that leaves you more room to play more games, and that's obviously better. Easier to get a team.
Yeah, I mean, Blood Bowl 3, I don't know if any of us had experience of that when it came out. I did. Crucifer, did you dip your toe?
In June,
Yeah.
the yeah, it was terrible. Just 15 minutes, and I ran screaming out, and I would
Metal,
not.
did you try it at all?
I did, but I never finished a game because I think the 5 separate games that I started crashed after the half.
Right.
But I do like the chess clock. I do like the time bank
Yeah,
kind of
that's what I wanted to
aspect.
come on to with
I
that.
want I want more than anything to have that for Blood Bowl 2, but we're not going to get it. And the reason we obviously have 4-minute turns in Rebel is because there is a variety of ability depending on which tier you're in and things like that. So there are coaches who can play out an entire game using 1-minute turns every turn, and they can probably set up a 1-turn touchdown in a minute. There are coaches who can't. We're trying to be a much wider experience covering all bases, and going longer helps that. But we do have side tournaments. Like we do 1-day tournaments, which is 1-minute turn, a bit like the Blitz bit, but with kind of like unique rules, like cripple cups and things like that, which is 1-minute turns.
Okay.
We have a 1-minute turn, actually weekly competition, weekly league as well. So we do play around with different turn lengths.
Now, I do want to move on, though, and that was my way of segueing towards Blood Bowl 2020 in general. Who's played it? What do we think? What's Rebel going to do about it? Crucifer, can we see you on Blood Bowl 2020? Is it your future too?
I was saying that I played Blood Bowl 2020. My friend, who is not involved in Blood Bowl in any way, just sent me a link because he knows I played. And for some reason, I found out that there is a local league playing tabletop Blood Bowl. So I signed up for it. I borrowed a team because I don't want to spend the money it costs to buy a team just for the thing that I may not like. I bought myself dice though. Uh, it's also slightly overpriced, but I decided that picking other people's dice may leave them rather uncomfortable playing with you. So I thought at least something I should do. And I played 2 games with Black Orc team, and well, it's interesting, but it's interesting because it's just new rule set for me right now. And 2 games is also a small sample size, and just cannot draw my opinion on that size yet.
But this is you dipping your toe into the future. You're in Blood Bowl for the long haul, are you?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, that's exciting news. Metal, how about you in 2020? Have you a relationship yet?
I've only played it through the Blood Bowl 3 beta, and obviously as a PC league, we are looking towards our plans for Blood Bowl 3.
Yeah.
And it's a question that comes up a lot the more it dawns on the horizon. But our plan is to establish a Rebel League within Blood Bowl 3 once we know how Blood Bowl 3 works. Because there's a lot still up in the air. Like, they haven't really told us if there's going to be redrafting, which is such a key aspect of the current tabletop rules version of Blood Bowl 2020. Now, unfortunately, between having kids and the pandemic and things, I've not actually been able to get to any tabletop games of 2020, but I would love to try it because I think there's a lot of interesting things in that rule set. But our plan is to offer both. Rebel and Blood Bowl 2 isn't going to go anywhere until they shut down, likely until either interest completely dies off or they shut down the Blood Bowl 2 servers. Rebel will also appear in Blood Bowl 3.
I'm not sure I can call that a newsflash. I think we'd have put some money on that, but I'm sure that's reassuring to some.
Some people act like it's a surprise.
And I think we didn't touch on this, but I do want to say the one thing. I mean, Rebel. I mean, it obviously it gives a home to a lot of people. But the one thing that's always hugely impressed me is the amount of off game support it's got. You know, the other sites, the Rebel bot, just the technical support you've got there, and the team that make all the videos and do all the playoffs. There's an enormous community working hard to make Rebel what it is, isn't there?
I am very, very blessed that I work with some incredibly intelligent people, like far more intelligent than I am. I'm the guy who comes up with a crazy idea at 3 a.m. and then messages one of my tech guys and goes, "Can we do this? Can we make this happen?" And then they'll go, give me 24 hours. And then they come back and go, look what I got. Is this what you wanted? And I'm like, it's better. It's better than what I wanted. Like, and that's kind of how Rebel.net grew up, and that's how, like, Haringzord made a bunch of hype videos for us. We've got a guy who's in a band who actually made a song that we played before. You know, he actually wrote a song about Blood Bowl and Rebel and things like that that we played before our casts now, our official casts. So I think it's one of those small, you know, passionate community brings out the best in the people who are there, kind of thing. And we're not that small anymore, so we have a decent range.
Elyod, 2020 and you.
Well, a very brief dip into Blood Bowl 3, of course, sadly, and then about, I don't know, 20 games or so on Fumble with the 2020 rules, and yeah, when I first saw the rules came out, I thought, well, there were some things I like and some things I don't like, and I thought that the do likes were, you know, pretty sizably, you know, more than the don't likes. And now that difference has closed down a little bit, but I think it's still generally in favor of you know, I like the new rule set compared to CRP, which is, well, I guess for the three guests here, all of our standpoints, because none of us have, I'm guessing, played too much 2016. So yeah, I think there's some nice things in there for sure. And some things that I look at it and think, why on earth have they done that? But I guess there's gonna be some stuff like that.
And are you similarly thinking, even if this isn't, you know, perhaps the rule set I'm going to love most in my lifetime, I'm sticking with Blood Bowl. I'm going to stick it through?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the question there for me is almost more of what will Blood Bowl 3 look like than what will 2020 look like. I'm definitely like sold enough on 2020. Like I say, probably slightly favorable to 2020 compared to CRP. But yeah, for me, in terms of my future in Blood Bowl, it really comes down to Blood Bowl 3. I mean, I'll definitely always sort of be hanging around and playing a few games on Fumble or something if Blood Bowl 3 does turn out to be, you know, really rubbish. But yeah, where I'm going to play the most of my games, hopefully, will be Blood Bowl 3. If it's good. So yeah, we'll have to see.
I think the biggest problem Blood Bowl 3 had so far was that it felt like they pushed that beta out too early. It wasn't ready. And I think a lot of people have gone quite negative over Blood Bowl 3 because they were told, we need something out for it was the Skulls Throne weekend or something on Steam, right? And there's a lot of like DLC content for other Games Workshop games, and it really felt like a bunch of the developers were kicked onto the screen and went, go on, go do something interesting, make it work. And it wasn't ready for public viewing, I don't think.
No, I mean, I think not only were there the graphical problems, I think each of the individual bits looked fine. They just, when they put them together, it looked awful and was hurting some people's eyes. But I think Elyod captured something I was really struggling to express. There was something just about the feel of it, the way it fed back to you, the way when you did an action, did it happen? Did it feel like the action you were doing reflected what was happening on the screen? And there was a real disconnect there that was really alienating. Which, despite all its problems, there doesn't seem to be with Blood Bowl 2. It does have that feel of being in control, sometimes not fully, but that there's at least a granularity to what you do with your mouse and your keyboard seems to directly happen on the screen. And I don't know, hence it's hard to put into words, which for me is rare. But Elyod
It's a
seems to
very good
grasp
point.
Is that how you felt, Cruz?
Exactly the same. I didn't feel like I'm controlling what's happening, and that what caused the frustration. Most of it, I can deal with graphics being a little bit off, but when I don't feel in control of what I'm doing, I get frustrated easily.
Chorf Coach is control freak. I think that's
for
a headline takeaway from this evening, isn't it?
I definitely got what you're saying though, the PurpleChest. I agree that I felt away from it, and I think for me it was the dice. It sounds so silly, but the Blood Bowl 2 block dice, when it feels like they're being rolled, and that it almost captured a bit of the tabletop essence. You see the dice tumble, you see them pop up, you go, I want that dice, or crap, I've just rolled a double skull, hit the reroll button, and then you roll them again. And removing you from that, it was almost the step that stopped it feeling like a tabletop game. It's more, you choose an action, and then it goes, oh, you fell over, and this was the dice that you fell over on, and then you've got to go look into what just happened, why did that happen? It doesn't feel like it's you actually rolling the dice like it does in Blood Bowl 2, I think. And I think for a tabletop game, that's a huge sin.
Yeah, I think it. Well, it's interesting. I mean, I'm going to ask. There's a friend of mine who you're all aware, perhaps chat isn't, has been lurking in chat, hopefully keeping up with anything in chat that we've missed going through as we've been chatting away. So hopefully we're going to be joined very soon by our man of the people for this episode. And I know he very much agrees with me that there is a market for maybe something like Fumble being a version of the computer, the board game, but for there to be maybe a computer game that doesn't have quite as many of the silly rules that we have to continuously obey, or you don't have to declare every action before you do it, for example.
Which Blood Bowl 2 is to some extent, right? There's in Blood Bowl 2 itself, there's some reduction of like the past declaration and that kind of thing, right, compared to the actual rules.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this and the amelioration of those sort of requirements of people to do that. Now, we're sort of being joined by a lurking shape.
Yeah, it's not, the video isn't working, is it?
No. But we can hear him, so welcome for those that don't recognise his beautiful voice. Welcome to the lovely Jimmy Fantastic, my man of the people for this episode, who has been lurking in chat, listening to anything that everyone except, hopefully, Dimmy has been saying. I can tell you Dimmy's principal questions, in case these are ones Jimmy's coming out with, sorry Jimmy, are, Crucifer, are you growing a moustache?
No, I just didn't have time to shave it. I was going to, but I spent a lot of time getting my camera working, so I didn't have time to shave it.
Okay. And Elyod, do you own an iron?
I do. I don't use it though.
Fair enough. Perhaps too much time on the robots. I didn't see anything he threw out for you, Metal. Perhaps he doesn't know you well enough to feel he can be worried.
He was particularly interested in the difference between Lance Armstrong and Neil Armstrong when that came up.
Ah, yes. One, of course, is a huge cheat that didn't do half the stuff he said. And the other one rode bicycles. Ooh, a little bit of moon conspiracy theory just dropped in on you there. Never too late for a very nerdy reference. So, Jimmy, you've been listening and watching the chat. Unfortunately, we can't see your beautiful face. But what have you got?
That's a tragedy, isn't it?
It is. I don't quite know why. Do you? Is it
No,
my
we
fault?
we literally tested this twice and it worked.
We
both
did. It was absolutely great. And now it just isn't working at all. Sorry, everyone. Oops.
Did
We
he
really
actually
should
say?
test all this.
Trust me, he's there, and he's just as good looking. He's got this lovely backdrop and everything that was all starry.
Yeah.
Jimmy, anything that you want to bring in to any of the three lovely people I have in this evening, or that's come up from the Twitch chat?
Timmy actually said something useful when he said, "What do you think about the only emotes chat in Blood Bowl 3?"
Yeah. Let's start with Metal. I don't feel we've spoken enough to you. What do you think about emote only chatting?
It certainly helps on shorter turns, or if you get, it stops those kind of. You've all had those games where your opponent's not having a very good game and decides to blame you for the dice, and it does cut out all of that. But it does, I think, hurt the community because, I mean, I came up with Blood Bowl. I've been playing for 25 years. 95 or something. I walked into Games Workshop and picked up Blood Bowl, and I've been at tabletop tournaments in the past. And one of the things I always enjoyed was, when you go to a tournament, you sat there, or you're playing a friend, you've got a beer, you're having a chat about the game, you're talking about whatever, and then you're playing a game at the same time. It's a very community-based experience for me, Blood Bowl. And I think emote-only chat does hurt that. But obviously, in a format like, say, CCL, where you may never play that coach again, you don't need to hear about that guy's day. You can just wave and thumbs up and see you later. So I think it's something that they should give as an option rather than mandate it across all forms of Blood Bowl 3.
Crucifer, am I stereotyping to say that you'd be quite happy not to have to hear from your whiny opponent?
No, I disagree. I think playing tabletop game twice helped me to understand why it was so confusing to me when I first met K-Folk, and well, he was also always so chatty. And when you play with the same person for 2 or 3 hours at tabletop, it's difficult to stay quiet. And I want to bring an issue that when it's Hearthstone, that another game that I play, chat is not necessary. But in Blood Bowl, matches last from hour to two on average, and I think it's slightly unfair if you cannot have a friendly chat with your opponent. I think that the mute tool, if you make it easy accessible, should be enough to like remove that toxic situation when one person blames the other. Just make the mute button somewhere close. Like you click it without spending too much time, without going in menu. I think that should solve all the issue. Well, not all, obviously, most of the issues with Blood Bowl toxicity in chat, and leave all the positive side of it.
Elyod, are you a talker?
I'm not. I'm very antisocial, and that, I'm definitely happy to mute the whiny people and stuff. Anybody who's GG's before the game is strictly 100% over. Instant mute.
Aren't
Yeah,
people just going to put unhappy face, unhappy face, unhappy face?
Well, that's one thing, right? It's going to be horrendous. The emotes just continually flashing up, but also it is bad not being able to chat to your opponent, right? For sure, it's
crying orc emoji or something.
Yeah. Over and over and over again.
I mean, fundamentally, though, Blood Bowl was originally a beer and Skittles social game for two people to play in a pub whilst having a drink. Aren't we sort of breaking that online by not allowing talk and by reducing it to 8? I mean, and none of them's even an eggplant. So, they're not even the emojis I'd want to use.
I feel like I'm stealing Jimmy's job here, but I actually think Noalius, I don't know if that's pronounced correctly, in chat, has nailed his take on it. It does feel like they were pushing a very mobile game feel to Blood Bowl 3. Especially if you look at the menus, they're all very bright primary colours with big blocks of colour, and the menu system, when I went in, was like, this looks like a mobile game. And on field, it doesn't pop as much. I think it's a bit more muted, but I feel like that's where they're trying to go with it, and I don't think that's the right direction.
And I know what you mean by the feel. I would defend them a bit by saying it also looked quite a lot like the rule book in places. Some of the swipe screens and things seemed to be taken directly from some of the look in the rule book, but the way they moved and sounded felt very like a mobile game. Not that I spend hours on the toilet playing mobile games. Who would do that sort of thing? Jimmy, what else you got for us?
That was it. There wasn't a lot.
A vibrant chat from the thrilled community taking part this evening.
You stole everything. You stole everything from me with the moustache and the iron and the Neil and Lance Armstrong. They were literally everything I'd written down.
Well, the Neil and Lance Armstrong was worth it. I'm truly sorry, my friend. Look, I have got one other thing which I did put in our private chat, and I did say I wanted to talk to, though we are really on time for ending within an hour, which I'm very excited by. I promised myself we were going to try and do that. If you could just cast your eyes on the Twitch stream for those that are able to, we're just going to cut, hopefully, to this. Great, that didn't work at all, but if I go there, it should. Yeah, just give it a second to load up. So we did hear about something brand new in the world of, well, is it Blood Bowl?
Is it brand new?
Well, okay, so two very good questions in my opening statement there. Dungeon Bowl is back, and it is bloodier than ever. So they're going to sell us a set of Dungeon Bowl, which will come with that. So it's going to come with a range ruler, some dice, and the dungeon tiles, but no new figures. You'll have to have all your own figures. And it is Blood Bowl played underground in a randomly generated dungeon with slightly smaller, slightly mixed race looking teams. So you're going to need multiple teams to be able to make the pieces up. Are we excited about the return of Dungeon Bowl? Is it relevant to the world of Blood Bowl? Or is it a frippery and a distraction?
I've never played Dungeon Bowl before in my life. I think it looks kind of cool. I don't know. I'd be up to trying it out. I don't know. Don't know how solid it would be. I mean, Blood Bowl itself is not that solid, I guess. But yeah, it looks like it could be interesting.
Crucifer, would it tempt you?
No, it seems awful, as I said, but it's just not something I would like to play, I think, but I obviously may be wrong. And it's just an impression from looking at the pictures, and it doesn't feel right to me. That's the only impression I have. That's why I think it's not something I would enjoy. But
don't you want to blitz down the corridor and open a chest just to see if the ball is in there?
Or a bomb?
Well, maybe. I mean, without trying it out, it's wrong. It's difficult to say, and also wrong to say that it's bad. But just first impression.
Metal, you're an old man of the hill like myself. You must have played a Dungeon Bowl in your time.
Sorry, who's that directed to?
To you, Metal. I mean, you must have played a game of Dungeon Bowl in your time.
I actually have played Dungeon Bowl at Games Workshop whilst definitely merry at Games Workshop HQ in Bugman's Bar. Whilst definitely merry with, I believe Jervis Johnson was part of the session at one point, way back in the day. And it's great fun if you're not taking it seriously and you're a bit drunk. And it's not Blood Bowl. It's an entirely different kettle of fish. It was fun.
About the price of that. Somebody in chat mentioned how much it costs, and my first thought on that price was I'd better get Frosthaven for that much money.
Yeah, I think Blood Bowl Sevens, which someone's mentioning in the chat. I've played a couple of games of Sevens and found it quite good fun. I don't think it would ever replace Blood Bowl for me.
It's one of those games, I think, that after you've had a day of Blood Bowl, like you've played a few games with your friends, you've played a small tournament or whatever, and then you start out to have a few drinks, and then you just go, let's do something a bit more lighthearted. Then you whip out Dungeon Ball, and it's a bit silly, everyone has a laugh, and then you go home.
So it's the game whilst having a few beers after a serious day of Blood Bowling.
That's how I think they should market it, although, of course, being Games Workshop, they won't be marketing it after beers, it'll be some form of soft drink, right?
Yes, after sherbet and a 7-Up. Jimmy, are you a Sevens and a Dungeon Bowl fan?
I've never played Sevens, but I've played every edition of Dungeon Bowl, funnily enough. There was the Elves, Dwarves and Dungeon Bowl, wasn't it? That was the first one in like the 80s, probably. Late 80s, I imagine.
And so how are you feeling about this mild mockery from the rest of the assembled crew?
I think, I don't know, it's alright, you know, it came out in White Dwarf, didn't it? And it looked to have basically kept like the hero, what was it, Warhammer Quest? They've basically kept that kind of Warhammer Quest thing for this, haven't they?
Yeah.
The computer game was pretty good, actually. The Dungeon Ball computer game was actually pretty good.
Was it even an official White Dwarf, Jimmy, or was it like journal territory back in the day?
It was in a White Dwarf.
For those that don't know, White Dwarf is a level of nerd achievement, which means it is instantly official the minute it's in a White Dwarf. It is a Bible that the young nerd lives by. More exciting than his first ever Freeman's catalogue.
Is it even?
That means nothing to most of you. I don't even know if it still exists.
It might be just Warhammer Magazine now, mightn't it? They've rebranded all of the stores to Warhammer stores. Maybe it's just Warhammer Magazine.
If we've lost White Dwarf, it's a sad day.
Did they get bored of people walking and asking where they can buy PC games?
Yes, that's literally exactly it, yeah.
For about 3 years, White Dwarf was the highlight of my month. But secretly, because, as I've said before, I was a secret gamer at that time. Elyod, you looked disheartened when I said we were naysayers of Dungeon Bowl. Are you a secret fan?
Oh, no, I was just, I don't know anything about it other than the pictures you've just shown, but yeah, I thought it might look like it could be fun. Just didn't have a, not the most positive attitude, I guess, but yeah.
I would say it's fun, but it's never going to replace Blood Bowl. The variance is even higher. It's much more random and very.
Crucifer said as well, it's very expensive for what it is. If it doesn't have any minis in it, like the fact that you've got to provide the minis on top of the blood, it seems a bit much.
Well, that's what I've been led to believe, but I'm not
sure it's got the miniatures in. Okay,
well maybe. Perhaps they would just throw a couple of sprues in. Doesn't seem that hard to do, does it?
Yeah, because I believe the teams are like made of like one sprue of each thing, kind of thing.
That would make sense. That would seem like the current Games Workshop model.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is coming. Yeah, Larishan thinks the same, that it is coming with figures, just not new ones. So we are getting reprints of the sprues from Blood Bowl boxes. But yes, you'll get half humans, half ogres. A sprue of each, for example. Excellent. Look, is there anything else anyone wants to say? That's our hour done. I think we've chatted to each of you, but there's plenty more I would love to say. So, a final thought from each of you. What do you want to say about Blood Bowl, or about Blood Bowl 3, or Blood Bowl 2020, or anything? What is your takeaway for everyone this evening? I'm going to start rather unfairly with Elyod, as he looks pensed and ready.
Oh no, I was just thinking. I thought I'm right in the middle on the screen, right? So surely you have to start from the left or the right.
No, outflank people.
Rather than having to stall for a while. Oh, I don't know. Blood Bowl remains the same as ever. I'm excited and terrified by the prospect of Blood Bowl 3. Fumble is really cool. Go and play Fumble. Anybody who hasn't, they're on 2020 rules now. They have this competitive division where you do have to. It's a game finder, so you see teams listed and you challenge them for games, this kind of thing. But they're getting some tournaments running as well, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, that's it, I guess. Blood Bowl is
Excellent.
good.
Metal. Let's come to you.
Sorry, Elyod. We have a
Okay.
question here from the chat. Does Elyod have any comments about losing to the champ?
Yes, fair. Yeah, I played Dimmy last night, and I lost for the first time in my life. Lost to Dimmy, of course. I lost plenty of times before, but not to Dimmy. So yes, I am suitably humbled and enjoying a deep period of self-reflection and quite negative feelings about Blood Bowl and things in general.
Yeah.
Because of this
We
traumatic
all live in
event.
the Dimmy-verse, Elyod. Played him twice,
Indeed.
lost twice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I know your pain.
He has come to rule us. Jimmy, anything you want to say? You are here at the end, so have your moment.
No, that's it. I've got nothing. I've got nothing to say, to be honest.
Well, it's beautiful to have you here. Metal, your final thoughts.
I think we should all try and give Blood Bowl 3 more of a chance than I think a lot of the community were willing to. I touched on it earlier, but I think the world of AAA games has kind of shown. They've been selling betas as this is actually ready 2 weeks before it's actually due out. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that an actual beta is here is a really barely finished game. Tell us what's wrong with it, tell us what's right, test it. And I think Blood Bowl 3 was closer to that than the new kind of AAA type beta. And I think, really, give it a chance, because they've got a lot of work to do, and it clearly wasn't ready. But I'm really excited to be able to play Blood Bowl 2020 on my PC. So,
I mean, I would agree with Elyod. You already can. About that, I mean, I agree. I thought the latest stream was a step forward. I do think there's a lot still to be done. I was quite convinced by their passion and desire. My concern is over the competence. So I wait and hope to be impressed. I want Blood Bowl always to be good. So that includes Blood Bowl 3.
my concern's the admin tools. They've traditionally always asked.
Yeah.
They've traditionally always asked, like, streamers, like Sage was asked, what could we improve with Blood Bowl 2 for Legendary Edition? It's like, can you ask some of the guys who run the leagues, because the admin UI is fucking awful.
If they could afford it, they should actually just hire Krista to build a proper front end for them, in my opinion. Crucifer, let me hear from you. What do you want to say to the world of Blood Bowl? Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a very interesting format. Never participated in anything like that, and enjoyed it a lot. But on the point of Blood Bowl 3, I totally agree with FullMetal that Blood Bowl 3 needs support from the community. I think that it's probably not news, but Blood Bowl 2 is really dying out in terms of people playing it, in terms of tournaments that are going on. When was the last time when we had something like World Championship? I participated in only one and really felt like I missed on something. And well, I think the Blood Bowl 3 is what we really need to keep the game alive. And PC